From Hagee Ministries television studios today on The Difference, join Matt and Kendal Hagee as they discover the topic, A Mandate for Freedom, with the president and founder of First Liberty, Kelly Shackleford.
These pastors who think, oh, I don't want to get involved in that, that's like political. It's not political, it's about freedom. People have to wake up or they're not going to have their freedoms.
Hello and welcome to The Difference. Kendal and I have a very special guest today, Kelly Shackleford from the First Liberty Institute. He's the lead counsel and founder of the organization that is doing every day what it can to defend our religious liberties and freedoms. Kelly, so good to have you on our program today.
Thanks for having me.
You know, First Liberty is a busy organization. As a matter of fact, I heard you list some statistics of the work you were doing 10 years ago and the work you're doing today. What kind of increase have you seen?
Well, I think 10 to 11 years ago, we had a total of 48 cases. Last year, we had 321.
Wow.
This year, it's going to blow 321. So, I mean, it's just increasing. The attacks on religious freedom in our country, unfortunately, are increasing each year.
Well, and that's what I think is very important to pull out of that statistic is it's the volume of effort that is required to defend religious freedom. That's what First Liberty does. It dedicates itself to religious freedom. And, you know, you were mentioning in a conversation how people who aren't necessarily religious, they want to make sure that religious freedom is protected because they kind of see it as the coal miner's canary, if you would.
Absolutely. Yeah, our founders called religious freedom our first freedom because they understood that if you lose that freedom, you lose all your freedoms. And, you know, a lot of people don't understand this, but I think a good example is a number of years ago, and I have this happen a lot, a guy by the name of Peter came up to me after I talked, and he said, I'm not religious like you are, but I'm a dual citizen of the United States and Czechoslovakia. He said, and I think that what you guys are doing is the most important thing anybody's doing in this country. He said, I saw this happen. They took down all the religious symbols in Czechoslovakia, and within 2 months, we all lost our political freedoms. And he handed me a check for $5,000. He said, I'm going to be supporting your ministry from now on because I know what happens when you lose religious freedom. This is a guy that's not a person of faith.
Correct.
He just understands the connection. And for people who don't understand kind of why that is, the best way I could summarize it is the one thing that a totalitarian regime can never allow are citizens who hold an allegiance to one higher than the government. So whenever you see this oppressive regime coming in, the first flashpoint will always be these people who won't bow their knee to the government.
Correct.
And so if you lose there, you'll lose everything. And that's why it's our first freedom. And so it's what you watch in a country. It's sort of the barometer, right? It's what you watch to see, are you in danger of losing your freedoms? And so the fact that our attacks are going up, 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 tells us that there are dangers and that we're in a real battle right now.
And, you know, some people discuss it quite often, and then other people somewhat either want to deny it or turn a blind eye to the reality that there is a group of people in the United States today that their agenda is total control of every individual life.
Yes.
They want to tell you where to go, what to do, what to wear, what to take, what not to take, what to say, what not to say. You can give it a broad brush with woke. You can call it anything you want it to, but the end result is it's coming down to control. Can one person tell another person what to do and enforce it? And that is totally contrary to what the Constitution and the Bill of Rights enable each and every one of us to do.
Absolutely. That's why we have a Constitution. That's why we have free speech. That's why we have free exercise of religion. And, you know, there's something that I know you understand very well, but a lot of people don't think about. You know, they see these woke corporations. They see this stuff happening where people are wanting to control everybody all of a sudden. And what they don't understand is Marxism is a competitor with Christianity.
Correct.
Right? If Marxism, in order for it to come into a country and have control, it has to remove religious freedom. And these woke corporations, it's just a substitute, right? It's their religion. And the difference, though, with Marxism and wokeism is, unlike Christianity, it doesn't believe in freedom.
Absolutely.
It thinks our religion, our way is the way, and we will force you
to do it.
And so that's the battle we're in right now, is this Marxism and this wokeism that wants to punish you. Christians don't want to punish you if you don't believe like they do, but wokeism does and Marxism does, and that's what we're witnessing, this battle. And we've got to push back. These pastors who think, oh, I don't want to get involved in that, that's like political, or it's not political, it's about freedom.
Correct.
It's about you standing as the church. And so we've got to wake up, and people have to wake up or they're not going to have their freedoms.
Yeah, the mandate is really acclimate or be persecuted.
That's right.
And currently, First Liberty is taking on a case of a young lady who is, as a person of faith, simply stood up for what she believed and was punished for it. Take a look at this video and see what we mean.
Lacey Smith loved being a flight attendant. The job was a perfect fit for her personality and her faith.
I mean, there's, of course, adventure that's a part of it. There were so many places that I got to explore that I wouldn't have otherwise. And in the same way, that's the same thing with the people, right? You just have so many different people. And so just kind of being there and serving in a way, when you think of, Jesus and the servant leadership, just being able to serve in a way that just met their need where they were at.
She worked for Alaska Airlines, a woke corporation, so she was not surprised when a notice appeared on an employee-only page.
So it just caught my eye because they had just posted it, and the title was Alaska Supports the Equality Act.
H.R. 5, the Equality Act.
That is a deceptively named bill in Congress. The large print may trumpet equality, but the fine print destroys important legal protections for people of faith.
What we're seeing now in the name of equality for people is equality for some. Right? That it's believe what I want you to believe or you're canceled.
So she posted a comment.
As a company, do you think it's possible to regulate morality?
And that's all she wrote, but there was a great deal of thought behind it.
In terms of regulating morality, laws are all about regulation. That's what they do. We're regulating behavior. Morality, when you break it down, is just what is right? What is wrong, the idea behind that. As a Christian, my morality comes from God.
She says first the airline wrote a response to her comment. Then they deleted it. Then they paused her work schedule. Then they called her in for a meeting. Then they fired her.
They said that by my asking the question, I was such a bad person that it merited firing me from my job. And I think that that's the hard part about it, that, what do people get fired for, right? Like, they get fired for being, not caring, incompetent, lazy, whatever. And mine had nothing to do with performance. It had everything to do with my character. And that's what they fired me for, that they said my character was so bad that I shouldn't work there anymore.
And the ultimate irony, what Alaska Airlines did perfectly illustrates why Lacey had questions about the so-called Equality Act.
I have the freedom to be who I want, unless apparently I work for Alaska Airlines. And then all of a sudden I no longer have the freedom to be who I am, because in order to keep my job, I now have to agree with everything that the company is saying and doing. When we are determined about things, and when we make up our mind about something, when we know that we know that we know, I think that it allows us that courage.
So Kelly, First Liberty has taken on Lacey's case, and it's really kind of interesting that it's a case against the Equality Act that she's actually having to stand up and defend her faith and her freedom over.
It shows that the Equality Act is very deceptively named. The Equality Act, if people don't know what it is a proposal in the federal Congress that would say that in every situation, in every law, whether it's housing, whether it's employment, I mean, you conceive of everything.
Yeah.
LGBT always trumps religious freedom. And specifically in the legislation, it removes from every American the protection of religious freedom under federal law. So it is a really radical whole idea. And then the idea that they posted something at Alaska Airlines and said, we really love this act. We want everybody to get behind it. We would love your feedback.
And she asked a question.
And she gets fired. And we have another flight attendant like her who said, as a Christian, I've got real questions. They fired her too.
Because they didn't acclimate.
That's
it's
right.
Acclimate or be punished. And this is so contrary to the nature of our foundational liberties, because our whole country was created for discourse.
Yes.
You know, let's discuss it. I have my perspective, you have your perspective. This is freedom of speech. And once we discuss these things, then we'll decide how best to work on a more perfect union instead of see it my way or you're out.
Well, and that's the thing that's so unique here. The frustration with many Americans is they're watching these woke corporations do things to people, and there's no real response, because free speech is protection against the government.
Correct.
And these are corporations. But in this case, there is something that could be done, and that's because we have federal law that says you can't discriminate in the workplaces on the basis of religion. So you can't say, we'd love your comments unless they're Christian comments, and then we're going to fire you.
Yeah.
So this is the first sort of woke corporation type case that is clear law on, and that I think we're going to really send a signal to every other corporation that you do this to people, you will pay the price in the United States of America.
Jesus said this to the disciples in Matthew 24. He said, take heed that no man deceives you. And if there was ever a time in which we saw deception just rampant, it's right now. But the good news is that there's truth, and the truth will set you free. We're going to discuss more about that when we come back to The Difference in just a few moments.
And there's so much more when we come back.
And people would say to me all the time, I don't understand this legal theory. I said, it's not complicated. It's exactly what you see pastors doing with the Bible.
Correct.
You know, is truth, or does it evolve?
In Genesis 12, God gave Abraham a promise that shaped the history of the world. He promised to give him a land flowing with milk and honey. He promised to make his name great. And to this day, Abraham is known around the globe. Why? God never breaks a promise.
Please send your best gift possible today. When you do, you'll receive our newest devotional, Promise, Problem, Provision. With your donation of $175 or more, we will include our Behold, I Make All Things New Scripture Art Piece, our Daily Truth Devotional, and the Hagee Ministries Prayer Journal.
Regardless of the trial you're facing, God will see you through to the other side if you will simply trust and obey.
Send your gift today. Call the number on your screen or visit jhm.org/provide.
Cornerstone Church invites you to Feast 2022, October 21st through the 23rd. Your family will enjoy 3 days of free rides, midway games, food, music, and spectacular fireworks with Pastor Matt Hagee. Friday night outdoor praise and worship with Natalie Grant. Saturday night Grammy Award winner Ty Tribbett. Sunday night, be our guest for our annual Night to Honor Israel with Pastor John Hagee. For more information, call the number on your screen or visit jhm.org/feast.
Welcome back to The Difference. Kendal and I have as our guest today Kelly Shackleford from the First Liberty Institute. And Kelly, before we went to break, we were talking about an individual's case. Stewardess, works for Alaska Airlines, who simply did not align with the corporate culture, you know, and therefore was terminated. Your organization has taken on her case. What does that mean for people who are watching at home and they say, well, you know, I'm not a stewardess, I'm not working for that company, but it does have an impact on their lives in a very real way?
Well, number one, I would say they need to know that there is a federal law that protects them in the workplace too. You can't be discriminated against in the way she was and another flight attendant. We represent 2 different flight attendants who were fired. Well, you can't do that. You can't fire people because they have a Christian perspective. And so they need to know, number one, they have that protection. Number two, the decision that does come down will be helpful to them too, because it will just establish precedent that makes clear the protections that are in the law for people, and it'll send a signal. You know, all the corporations and their lawyers read the opinions, what comes down. And so when you leave a mark on one of these corporations, you know, and they have to pay a fee and they get nailed, other corporations go, we're not going to do that. And so they begin to train everybody not to do this type of thing to people who are people of faith. So it can affect people in a lot of ways. And I would encourage people to really pray for this case. We filed the first step, which is with the EEOC, After that will come a lawsuit. One of the good pieces of news is the former general counsel of the EEOC, she left a couple of years ago. When she saw the facts of this case, she said, I've got to be a part of this. She's one of our counsel on the team.
Well, and you know, First Liberty, I tell people, you guys are really on the front lines of the battle for freedom, because the world we live in, warfare is now lawfare. And the courts are the arenas in which, you know, these battles take place, and words are weapons.
Absolutely.
And so whenever you hear something like the Equality Act, it's like sugar and poison, because everybody says, well, it sounds sweet,
Sounds good.
but it's actually very detrimental, because it becomes the weapon that is going to be utilized to define hate speech in the future. You know, I've heard my father say for generations, you know, there will come a day when, if certain liberal agendas get to have their way, reading the Bible will be outlawed. You know, because according to things like the Equality Act, if you get up and you read the Bible's perspective on male and female, or you get up and read the Bible's perspective and the truth about marriage, that he created them male and female in his own image, you could be considered utilizing hate speech. As outrageous as it sounds, this is where it starts.
That happened. What you described happened in Canada just a number of years ago. So that's exactly where you go if you don't have a system like our system with the First Amendment. And it's why it's so important that we have good judges and good justices. And so, again, I am very encouraged about our courts, because what a lot of people don't understand is let me put it this way, in the positive way. For the first time in 80 years, we have a majority of justices on the Supreme Court who think their job is to find the original meaning of the text. Now, people might find that surprising. What do you mean?
Yeah.
You mean the other justices didn't think that their job was to find the original meaning? No.
Yeah, they interpreted it.
That's right. It's a living, breathing document, okay? Which what they were saying is, we need to look at today and what people believe today, and we need to shift, okay?
Correct.
And people would say to me all the time, I don't understand this legal theory. I said, it's not complicated. It's exactly what you see pastors doing with the Bible.
Correct.
And so it's this evolution, you know, is truth, or does it evolve? And that's just like you see pastors that, I need to read this Bible differently because today is different.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the judges, they reflect the same culture. But that's a huge change. 80 years, we haven't had that.
Wow.
We now have. Now, they might find a different original meaning than you think. But their goal is to find the original meaning. And what you'll find if you watch the opinions now is it's carrying them back to the founding principles. And in religious freedom, it's carrying us back to the pure religious freedom protections we've had, which, you know, have been really watered down through bad decisions. But as you have justices who think it's more important what the Constitution says and what it means than what some liberal court said in some opinion 50 years ago, they're beginning to scrape off the dross and really bring back the vibrancy of our freedoms. And so the courts are really, there's an encouraging thing happening there that most people are not seeing, and especially in religious freedom. I mean, I think we're just the beginning of some really incredible advances for protections of religious freedom.
Well, and it's an important time for people to be willing to take those strong stands.
Yes.
Because it's not just affecting one area or one part of the country. You recently represented two young ladies who had achieved high academic marks. They were the valedictorians of their class, but because they wanted to share their faith in their valedictorian speeches, they were told that they could not.
Yeah.
That's right. And, you know, that's a clear violation of law. The school is the government. These are public schools. The citizen, the student, is a private citizen. So think of this. They've won the right to speak.
Correct.
And valedictory address means a personal farewell. People talk about all kinds of things, right? What's important to them? They might talk about politics. We've seen these things with valedictory addresses.
Yes.
In this case, I'm thinking of the first one first, Elizabeth Turner. She wanted to talk about what she thought was the most important when you look to a farewell and what's ahead. And that's about God on where you are with Jesus.
Her faith.
Yeah.
She has a right to do that. The idea that the government would come in and say, well, there's certain things you're going to say, in the words they use, that are not appropriate.
Correct.
What do you mean not appropriate?
Yeah.
Okay, the government doesn't have a right to say that Jesus is not appropriate. And so I'm thankful for her, not only for being a good student, earning the right to speak, and then deciding, feeling led to talk about her faith, but that she stood her ground. She didn't back down.
No.
She reached out to us. And by the way, you want to hear the really odd thing? Guess where this was?
Where?
This happened in Hillsdale, Michigan.
You're kidding.
Hillsdale College
The
is one
location of Hillsdale College.
Great, but this wasn't the college.
Yeah,
this
is a
was
public school.
a public school. So it's amazing. This is everywhere. Okay, and this is happening maybe in your backyard and you don't know it. Some student being told, and most students just go, well,
Okay.
yeah, if they say so, good for her for standing up. But this is what's happening to students across the country. We need to educate these students as to their freedom. I'll tell you a funny story. A number of years ago, we had a student, he wanted to form a Bible club at his school. They had other clubs, he wanted a Bible club. And he went to his principal, and the principal said, well, you know, I don't think so. We don't have religious clubs here. So this student went, got our information, went back to him. Good student, got our. He said, I have a right to have a club. And he said, I'll ask the
School board.
And so he reached out to the attorneys.
Yeah.
And I love this, because what the attorney said, and this is the kid and his mom telling me this story, said, the principal said, well, I did talk to the attorneys. Well, what did they say? They said, are you kidding me? Do you know what First Liberty will do to us if we deny this club? And I was like, yes, success.
That's what you want.
We need this to happen without anybody having to do anything, because people are standing on their freedoms. They know what their rights are. And that's the crucial thing. If people just know what their rights are in a vaccine mandate situation, in their employment, in their school, this country was built on religious freedom, but if we don't stand for those, they'll be taken away.
Well, if you're interested in defending religious freedom and you're interested in handing a better tomorrow to your children and your grandchildren, I want you to go to firstliberty.org. It's a great opportunity for you to find out more about how you can join the front lines of the fight for truth in the next generation. We'll be right back after this.
And when we come back,
And then the governor said that they were going to send police officers to every church on Easter Sunday. Their license plate would be written down of any car in the church parking lot, and their homes would be visited by police, and they would be quarantined for 14 days.
The life of a child is precious in God's eyes, and the gift of life is something you can become a part of today. We at Hagee Ministries are offering you the opportunity to change the life of a child and mother by becoming a legacy partner. As a legacy partner, your monthly gift supports the Sanctuary of Hope, that is a one-of-a-kind safe haven that provides a home to single expectant mothers and offers resources that will enable them to find success in their communities. The Sanctuary of Hope exists to provide a loving, safe environment where both baby and mother can receive the education, care, and hope they so desperately need. When you partner with us, our legacy becomes your legacy, and together we are impacting lives and transforming nations for Jesus Christ. There has never been a better time to share the love of Christ with a mother and a child than right now. Become a legacy partner today. Call the number on the screen or go to jhm.org/partner.
Here at Hagee Ministries, we're excited to announce our digital web platforms that provide you with live streaming services, special messages, and series, all through our video on-demand applications. Our Hagee Ministries channel app is now available on Apple TV, Amazon, and Roku streaming platforms. You can also watch our services live on your favorite social media channels, including YouTube, Facebook, or online at jhm.org/watch.
Be the victories that our country is having. Trying to pack the Supreme Court and the other justices tonight.
And even during a pandemic, that Constitution prevails.
What happened when, for the first time, we gave mayors and governors massive power that they had never had in their lifetime? What was the first flashpoint? It was the churches being shut down and the synagogues being shut down. It was religious freedom. And we knew this, and we went into that saying, Lord, we really need help on this, because we understood there was no precedent, and there's no cases on this, and we knew how hard it would be if you're a judge. Think if you're a judge, a federal judge, and somebody comes into court and says, hey, I want you to open up our church for an hour on Sunday. And on the other side is the governor saying, I'm trying to save millions of people's lives. So we prayed, and we had hundreds of churches and synagogues saying, you won't believe what they're doing to us. But we were trying to wait for the right case. And if you'll remember, the images we're seeing right now at this point was a father throwing a baseball with his son, being handcuffed for throwing a baseball in the park. A person coming off the beach all by themselves with a search board being arrested for being on the beach. We were seeing things where people were wondering, has the Constitution been suspended? And so we knew this was important. And about 1.5 years ago, right before Easter, we got a call from a church, On Fire Christian Church. They were coming into Easter and they were struggling with, how do we come together for Easter but yet be safe? They came up with an idea. We'll drive into the church parking lot. We'll have the pastor speak over a radio frequency, and we can be together. Well, the city of Louisville said this would have been a crime, and they were going to be criminally prosecuted if they drove their car into the church parking lot. And then the governor said that they were going to send police officers to every church on Easter Sunday. Their license plate would be written down of any car in the church parking lot, and their homes would be visited by police, and they would be quarantined from 14 days in their home. We said, okay, we're now in China. This is the case. And so we filed in federal court for an immediate injunction, what's called a temporary restraining order, in federal court on Good Friday. We got an excellent judge, federal judge by the name of Judge Justin Walker, and he said, I can't believe I'm even writing, much less reading about this. This is like from some dystopian novel. An American city is criminalizing people coming together for Easter. He said, this is outrageous, it's unconstitutional, and this will never happen as long as I'm a federal judge.
We're so glad you joined us today. Do you want to learn more about this important topic? Here's a glimpse of our next episode.
If you look at what's happened to countries who have gone into tyranny almost immediately, it's through court packing. It's incredibly dangerous. I think it's the one thing that if it happens in the United States, our country's over.
Now more than ever, it's important for you to know what your First Amendment rights are, how to defend them, and how to stand up for your faith in this day and age. Kendal and I want to thank Kelly Shackleford for being our guest and encourage you to find out more information at firstliberty.org. If you'd like to find out more information about the things that are happening here at Hagee Ministries, you can go to jhm.org, and we look forward to seeing you very soon right here on The Difference.